Can
All
you
right,
guys?
good evening.
Yeah, this is new.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Investors Coffee Time at 8 p.m. Today is crypto night, so we're going to have Andrew with us, share with us today's topic on crypto, a generational opportunity. So he's going to present us, the money trail, right, for cryptocurrency, because right now cryptocurrencies has really come quite a long way, right? We have recently heard that or we got the news recently that the biggest investment bank in the world is now accepting, or is actually now getting cryptocurrencies as one of their portfolios in investing as well. And of course, China is still going on, and I read the news recently as well. Now China is starting to put cryptocurrencies on their educational syllabus. That's something new. So they really want all the people to actually learn about currencies, and I think they're getting ready for it. Do you think so, Andrew?
Yeah, definitely. China and across the world soon. I think you will see central banks starting to implement that. They call them CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Yeah.
I think also about a bit over a year, the world-renowned CFA, right, Chartered Financial Analyst. Now crypto is part of their syllabus. Yeah, this was, I think, back in 2018, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I wonder when Malaysia is going to have something like this, right?
Remember, you can join ET courses. We'll teach you about cryptocurrency.
Yeah. And for those who are in the finance ministry or whatever, if you heard us, then if you want to engage Equity Striker to be the spokesperson for cryptocurrency, we have Andrew here, right? And he has a network of crypto guys all over the world, right? All right, guys, thank you for joining us tonight once again. Welcome to Investors Coffee Time. And basically we run this every night, right? And you hang on for a while, because at the end we're gonna basically share with you tomorrow. We have a special session, all right? And it's basically for business owners, all right? So if you're a business owner, this is something that you wanna hear later on, right? So stay with us. And before we start, let me share my screen. Just want to share the disclaimer first. So basically, I think I just accidentally removed the screen.
Yeah, I can do it for you. Yeah.
Okay, so no worries. All right, so guys, first of all, whatever is being discussed here is basically for educational and informational purposes only. It is not an investment advice or whatsoever, although it's cryptocurrencies. And if you want to get professional advice, please seek a licensed investment professional. All right. So for Investors Coffee Time, we run this every day. So I hope that you are able to actually like our Facebook page so that you get notification. Right. And oops. Okay, so it's slow now. Okay, so please do like our Facebook page and follow us, right? And make sure your notification is on so that whenever we go live, you actually get a notification and you can actually join us. And also, please do share with your friends if you think that the Coffee Time sessions that we have benefited you. Please share it to your friends, share it to your Facebook friends so that they too can benefit from this. All right. And if you are on a YouTube channel, please subscribe our YouTube channel to get notification as well. Of course, the YouTube channel is Activities Tracker. You can search on YouTube, and please click on the subscribe button so that you can also get notification through YouTube. All right. So before we start, I think I'm just going to update the cryptocurrency prices first. Is it okay?
Of course. Yep. Yes, please.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so again, we'll take a look at three, right? We look at Bitcoin, we look at Ethereum, and also Litecoin. So Bitcoin has really rebounded to a level where, earlier last month we were expecting the price to actually go to this level, right? It momentarily hit $10,000 and is now starting to move into a correction. So after a strong rally like this, normally what we will expect is the market to go into a correction, go to a sideways movement first, because the market is probably now thinking whether there is enough momentum to actually go above $10,000. So that's why you see that when it hit $10,000, it hit that twice in this past few weeks, unable to break above that level, stay above that level, although it tested it. So we're probably going to expect the price to continue to consolidate sideways, right? Between this range about 8,900 to $10,000, right? So that within the 1,100 range, okay. So I think the price is probably going to stay. This is of course based on technicals, right? And for those who know technicals as well, you can also see that the RSI has already gone overbought, right? So that's why you are seeing some profit taking probably right now for those who actually bought earlier. So that's why we are probably going to see a correction, a sideways correction, maybe the next 1 or 2 weeks, right? For Ethereum, Ethereum has also gone to the level that we expected, and you can see same like Bitcoin as well. The price is struggling to go above $220, right? And it's starting to move sideways a little bit, and like Bitcoin is probably just going to go sideways and trade between 185 to 220. Right, so that's where I think it's going to consolidate. So if the price is able to break above 220, then we're probably going to have another rally upwards, right? And same thing with Bitcoin, right? If it goes above $10,000, then it's probably going to go even higher, right? But for now, I think the next 1 2 weeks is probably just going to go sideways for a consolidation, all right? Litecoin is not as strong as the Bitcoin or Ethereum performance, right? We can see in the past 1 month the price is actually trading in a sideways range, right, between $40 and $50. And I guess the price is it's not going to go anywhere if it stays between 40 and 50, right? So if it can break above 50, and I believe that if Bitcoin can go above 10,000 and Ethereum can go above 220, then I think Litecoin will be able to go above 50. Okay, so but for now, the next 1 2 weeks, same thing like Ethereum and Bitcoin, we're probably going to expect it to trade sideways between $40 and $50. All right. So maybe I'm not sure what's the development now in the crypto market. Maybe Andrew can share us whether there are catalysts to actually go higher or not. All right. We have already seen Bitcoin halving, right? And of course, it becomes stronger than the rest of the other cryptocurrencies. So maybe Andrew, you want to share with us what's happening in the cryptocurrency world right now, at least to give an idea whether there's a chance for the price to break above that $10,000 for Bitcoin.
Sure. Let me share my screen. Cool. Okay, there you go. So last week, last Tuesday was when the halving actually occurred, right? So from last week, since the halving happened to sometime this afternoon, although it's actually come down, it's still up 9.2%. So that's some healthy gains there for a week. It's not bad. If you happen to have bought it last week, then you'll be up 9.2%, right? So the halvings just happened. Traditionally, what happens usually after the halving is that, I mean, this is only the third halving. So when I say traditionally, in the last 2 halvings, what normally happens is you see a dip, right? And then after that, it'll go up. So I think in not last week, but the previous week's presentation, I did a couple of charts on what happened in the first halving, and then 12 months after that, where it went, where the price went, and then the second halving that happened in 2016, and then where that price went after that, right? So that kind of showed the trajectory, and both the last 2 halvings have been gains, right? It's been 3-figure percentage gains, right? So let's move on to this week's topic, right? Where we talk about crypto. Is it a generational opportunity, right? So before that, let me just catch everyone else up on the news that has happened the week that was, right? So what's happened in the last week in the world of crypto? So as Benny mentioned earlier, JP Morgan is now the bank for two regulated exchanges. They are Coinbase as well as Gemini. Now, Gemini, many of you may not know who they are, but Gemini is actually owned by the Winklevoss twins. The Winklevoss twins were the original funders of Facebook. And then they had a spat with Mark Zuckerberg. And then eventually they got their payout. And then what they did with their payout, which was measly compared to, obviously the worth of what Facebook is, but they dumped it. They dumped almost all of their payout into Bitcoin, and they bought Bitcoin, right? And they've been long since that happened. And I believe their investment have actually turned them into billionaires, right? So what happened in the last week? So JP Morgan is now the banker for Coinbase, which is a crypto exchange, and it is also the banker for the Winklevoss twins exchange known as Gemini, right? They're both regulated. They're both registered as money transmitters. Here's the interesting thing, though, right? Back in 2017, Jamie Dimon slammed Bitcoin as a fraud. So this is only 3 years ago, right? It was a fraud, and he threatened to fire any of his employees who worked at Goldman Sachs. Sorry, not Goldman Sachs. Anyone who worked at JP Morgan, that he would fire them in a second if he caught them trading Bitcoin, right? And for two reasons, right? One, it was against the rules that he had set, and two, because they were stupid. So it's actually quite interesting that they now are the banker for two crypto exchanges. So I guess, yeah, that's interesting, right? So how times have changed in 3 years, right? And that's only 3 years. What else has happened in the week that has passed? So everyone knows who Temasek is, right? So Temasek is the sovereign fund for the Singapore government. So they are now the first Asian-based member of the Libra Foundation. So they have decided to join the foundation of Libra. Now, for those of you who don't know what Libra is, last year Facebook decided that it wanted to join the cryptocurrency community, right? So they created a foundation that's based in Switzerland, and they were going to call their crypto or their currency Libra. I mean, those of you who are familiar with the WeChat and Alipay, essentially is just the ability within your chat program, right, to then send money to each other. Now, Libra came up with the same idea. Facebook came up with the same idea. Now, obviously, Facebook actually owns WhatsApp, and I think probably two weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I talked about how many users there were on Facebook. So a large number of people are on Facebook. So can you imagine the ability for you to send money anywhere across the world in an instant? When Facebook announced the Libra cryptocurrency, they gave it legitimacy, right? They gave the world of crypto legitimacy. Obviously now, as JP Morgan decides to be the banker for some crypto exchanges, they too are giving legitimacy to crypto, right? So essentially what Facebook was going to do is that they were going to have a basket of currencies that would then that they would hold in custody, right? And then they would then mint their currency called the Libra, right? And then that would then allow them to transmit and send money to anyone around the world. So Temasek, right, has decided to join the Libra Foundation, and so that's really interesting. So just to, I don't know if you're able to see the different groups who are in as part of this Libra the foundation, right? You have guys like Coinbase, right? Obviously Facebook is there. Spotify's on, right? Shopify, Uber. Now, Temasek's in there, Xapo, Andreessen Horowitz. Now, those of you who don't know who Andreessen Horowitz is, they're a firm and they only focus on tech. And recently, they've just raised another 500 mil US to deploy, right, to invest in crypto assets. Okay, so oh yeah, this is the other thing that's happened in the week that has passed. So there's a hedge fund manager called Paul Tudor Jones, right? Now he calls Bitcoin, well, he called it a great speculation, but he has also announced and made an allocation of almost 2% of his portfolio into Bitcoin, right? And he calls it his best bet against inflation. What does he mean by that? Now, for those of you who have been reading, the financial news and following, you know that the federal the Fed in the US, right? They have essentially unleashed. They've essentially unleashed unlimited quantitative easing. That means they can technically print as much money as they need to prop the economy, their economy up. So Paul feels, right, Paul Tudor Jones, he feels that Bitcoin is his best hedge against the inflation of money. Now, what do I mean by inflation of money? Now, obviously, there's the inflation of money supply. Then there is, the inflation of prices, right? So obviously, as you introduce more money into the system, if you're holding cash, then your value of that cash will start to get less and less over time because the total money supply within the system becomes bigger and bigger. So if the total money supply was $100 and you had $10, you hold 10% of the total money supply. But if that money supply continues to expand, say $100 turns into $1,000, right? Then you now, from owning 10% of the total current total amount of money in the system, you now only own one. But not only that, as more money gets introduced into the economy, if there isn't any production, like your production doesn't, your GDP, your production doesn't go up, then essentially there will be inflation and the worth of your paper money becomes less and less. So holding cash is probably your worst enemy, right? So that's why. So as a hedge fund manager, he has now deployed 2% of the portfolio into Bitcoin. So that's a big statement, and again, that gives a lot of verification as well as recognition, right, into Bitcoin as an asset class, right, into the crypto space. Let's move on to the next slide. Oh, sorry, that just opened the link, right? Right. Yep. So obviously, just to go through, Paul Tudor Jones, he manages a fund of 21 billion, right? He was the guy that actually predicted the 1987 market crash, and he made 200% in that year when it crashed, right? His net worth is 5.1 billion, so he's one of the billionaires. He's ranked as number 7, right, in Forbes for the highest earning hedge fund manager. And so that brings us to his. So this is a quote from Paul, right, in his letter to his customers, right? He says, "I am not a millennial investing in cryptocurrency, which is very popular in that generation. Now, this reaffirms something that I'm going to talk about later. But a baby boomer who wants to capture the opportunity set while protecting my capital in ever-changing environments." Right. So this was his statement, and this is a very strong and reaffirming statement that he's made on behalf of Bitcoin. Right. So and he also confirms that within the millennial generation, Bitcoin is very popular. Okay. So that's that for that's the catch up of the news for the last week, and let's move on right to today's topic. Is this a generational opportunity? So let's talk about different generations, right? So it is defined. If you're a marketer out there, you've probably you're probably very familiar with all the different types of generations, right? So it's defined. If you're in the greatest generation, you're born between 1910 and 1927. Our ex-prime minister, our previous prime minister Mahathir, is actually in that greatest generation. He was born in 1925, right? So he's in that greatest generation. Then obviously, you're in the silent generation between 1928 to 1945, right? And then the baby boomers came, right? That's right after World War II. Gen X, which was probably the smallest generation there was, and then millennials. Obviously, what I'm missing out on is the next one, which is the Gen Z, right? So I don't know if you can.
Sorry, Andrew, can go back to the previous slide?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, guys, just for a sake of knowing you guys, can you just type your generation on the comment section? All right, mine will be Generation X lah. Right.
I'm a Gen X, but I probably think like a millennial.
I think I'm gonna show this slide to my children, because they always call me a boomer. I'm the Generation X. Okay.
But you know what is interesting, right? Apparently, different countries, depending when the internet was a little bit more mass or reached the masses, there is different definitions for different countries. Probably not more than plus minus 5 years, especially between the X and the millennials. Yeah, but I think generally the boomers are quite, because I think the biggest shift was between Gen X and millennials. So when I think our post-millennials are known as Gen Z. They are known as digital natives, which means that when they were born, they don't know what the world is like without the internet, right? So some millennials can still remember what the world was before internet, right? I definitely can remember, no such thing as live streaming on demand, right? Every Sunday you have to wait in the morning for the cartoon to come on, right?
So digital native, right? I think there's an echo, yeah? Is there an echo? No. Okay. So like for digital natives, as Alvin mentioned, which is the Gen Z, right? Like my kids are, they're born with the internet, so they never knew what life was like before the internet. They never had to learn what the internet was about. It's like running tap water, right? And having electricity, right? So these were things that I was born into. So I never knew what life was like, without electricity, without running water. When we wanted to cook, you just turn on the stove, right? I didn't have to go collect firewood and kind of like spark and make fire and cook over it. So each generation will go through different things, and to them, certain things are the norm, and other things that they have to learn within their generation. So looks like we have a lot of millennials who's actually watching, right?
And I'm just trying to get some response from the YouTube guys who are channeling in on the YouTube. I'm just curious if they can also respond as well. Yeah. So if you're listening on YouTube, right, give us a comment.
Yes.
All right, awesome. So we have a mixed group of people. There's also boomer, there's Gen X, there's X, right? I wonder if there's Generation Z over here.
If you guys X, someone triple X.
I see a one who's from the tail end of a boomer, but definitely thinks like a millennial. You know who I'm talking about.
Okay, so Andrew can carry on.
Okay, sure. Okay, so now the next set of slides I've actually borrowed from I've used directly from a presentation that we saw, that we watched, and this is from Fundstrat, and the person presenting it was Tom Lee. Right? They're based in the States on Wall Street, and I've actually met the guy. He's brilliant mind. He's a researcher. He runs his own research firm, and these are, these findings are predominantly based in America, but it actually goes across the globe, right? And just to give everyone a feel of it. So whatever I'm presenting has been presented by Tom from Fundstrat, and this is just I suppose we are just because we found the message to be so strong, and so we'd like to share this, right? We'd like to share this information with all our viewers. Okay, so obviously, as we said, the greatest generation, the silent, the baby boomers, Gen X, and these are the years. And if you look at the statistics of it, right? So they make up. Sorry, I'll move on to that. So the peak size of the generation, right? Basically, if you look at it, the largest is by far the largest, right? Is actually the millennials. They make up the largest portion of the total population, and this one we're talking about America. And in this study, right, if you look at it, so different generations will go through different things throughout their lives, right? So right now, this study was done in 2018, so 2 years ago, so it's still fairly recent. It was found that the average age of the millennial is around 26 and a half, 27 years old. So now millennials, as I said, they were born between 1980 to 2000, and as Alvin said, they the years vary depending on which country, right? But let's say we take 1980 to 2000. That means today you're aged between 20 and 40, right? If you're anywhere in between 20 and 40, you're a millennial, right? You may not act like one, or you might not think like one, but you're a millennial, right? And so every generation goes through pretty much the same things in life, right? Or the same cycle or the same process, right? So obviously right now, so if you look at this chart that is on here, right? When they get to the age of 21 to 35, right? That's when they buy their first car, right? Or they will buy cars. And obviously in America, you have to be 21 to start drinking before you're allowed to drink. Then they start drinking. In Malaysia, I think it's 18. And so, ours might start a little bit earlier. And so, you spend your money. What happens? You spend your money on cars and drinks, right? And partying, obviously, because you're young. You've got many years ahead of you, and life is good, right? And you've just started your first job, right? You've graduated. You're in your job, and so life is good, right? So eventually you move on, right? Then you start thinking. You get a bit older. You're like, okay, I think your parents are nagging at you. Hey, what are you doing? You're going out every night. You're partying, right? You're drinking, and you're coming home late. We need, you should settle down, right? So go and buy a property, right? They'll probably even put down that deposit for you, some of your lucky ones, and they will make you buy a property, right? So they purchase the first homes. So as you climb that corporate ladder, you're working more, right? You get to that point where so between ages 30 to 60, right? You're in your prime income years. That means you've settled down, you've done enough partying, enough drinking, you've bought your fast cars, you've purchased your home, now you settled down, you probably got a girlfriend or two, right? Or a boyfriend or two, and then eventually you get married, and then you settle down, and then the focus is career, right? And so that primary income years is when you've had enough experience in the industry, you're worth more, the industry wants to pay you more for your experience, right? Then you get into your primary income years. So that's between 30 to 60. So today, right? Today, so this one here says 26 and a half. So if you add 2 years now, they'll be 28 and a half, 29, right? So they're about to jump into their primary income years. Now, remember what Paul Tudor Jones said, right? He said that I know this kind of asset class is popular with you millennials, right? But they're not in their primary income years yet. So moving on, so this chart actually overlays, the different generations, right? The different generations, and what age group they're in, right? And so this one shows them, buying the first car, right? They are also a first home buyer. Then, some of them have actually come into the prime income. Like I said, if you're between 20 and 40, right? The last 10 years, right? You've been, if you're 40 now, right? Then in the last 10 years, you would have probably seen your net worth go up, right? Because you are now in your prime income, you're getting paid more, you're more experienced, you're climbing the corporate ladder. And so the millennials are just coming into this primary income group, primary income age. Now, this next chart looks a little bit complex, but what it is it's overlaid all the different generations, right? So you've got the silent generation, the baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials, right? Now, again, this is all based in the States, where you see, between 1965 or 66, right, through to 1973, right? So this gap, this area is the primary. This is when that generation is in their primary income years, right? So see how the housing the housing demand went up, right? In this period, right, when the silent generation was actually in their primary income years, right? Then same with the baby boomers, right? So you see the demand there go up, right? Same with the Gen X, right? You see this one just went straight up, right? Obviously. And then now, right? So now we're in from 2017 onwards, right? And above, right? So millennials are now starting to buy the first homes, right? So there'll be a demand for homes. Okay. Now let's look closer into what asset classes these generations bought into. So if you look at the silent generation, right? The silent generation bought gold, right? My late grandmother, and God bless her soul, I still remember, that my grandmother's generation, right? She was always, whenever she had a little bit of money, she would say, "Hey, let's go and like she'll buy something that is of value, right? So gold to her is of value, right?" And I still remember one of my great grand aunties, my grand auntie and grand uncle. One Chinese New Year, we went to their house, and then they were moving house, and so they were clearing out the house, and then he brought out this box of money, right? It was really interesting. It was paper money, but it was a box, and there was a lot of it, right? But there was a lot, but it was the Japanese money, right? So this was during the time during the Japanese occupation. And if you think about the history of Malaysia, right? We've been invaded by different foreign countries over the years before Merdeka. So can you imagine the type of paper money that we went through, right? First it was the British, right? Then after it was the Japanese one, and then after it was back to the British again. So over the years, can you imagine if you were in their shoes? Would you be keeping a lot of paper money? You probably wouldn't, because paper money, it was during times of war, times of uncertainty. To them, what was solid and what was, what would always hold value to them was gold, right? So looks like it wasn't just Malaysia, but it appealed to that silent generation, right? And this is very interesting. If you look here, right, around 1971, right, that's when the US dollar went off the gold standard, right? And what happens when the US dollar went off the gold standard? Everyone bought gold, right? Everyone within that generation bought gold. And so you saw that huge rise in that asset class of gold, right? But right now, millennials buying gold. Look, I know there's gold prices have surged lately, right? That's because of the that there's a lot of demand for gold recently because the central banks obviously that there's a lot of money coming into the system, as I mentioned earlier. So I guess there may be some baby boomers perhaps, right, who may be going into gold. But millennials, actually, maybe if we can do a poll, because we have a lot of millennials, can you tell us if you're buying gold, right? Just mention in the comment below if you're buying gold, right? So this was the silent generation, right? So they bought gold, right? And this is during their primary income years, right? So then we move next onto the baby boomers. Now, baby boomers, right? So their prime income years, what did they buy? They bought stocks, right? You look at the rise of the S&P 500. So that was their asset class. Look, obviously, stocks is still a very popular asset class today, right? And so, but more so for the millennials, what probably the millennials are attracted to in terms of stocks are probably tech stocks, right? They're attracted to tech stocks. So you look at some of the valuation of tech stocks. What's really interesting, right? You talk about the FANG stocks, right? Most of them, they're all in the tech sector, and a lot of them are actually, if you had to sell everything, you'd probably get 20 cents on the dollar, right? Because their valuation is based on the network effect. Right? How many people they have? For example, Facebook, right? What do they have? They don't really manufacture anything, but they have 2.4 billion user accounts, right? And so that, I think I read, was it today or yesterday? Facebook recently introduced shops on Facebook where you can set up virtual shops, right? Of course, in correlation, its price also jumped 12% in that period. So anyway, so baby boomers, right? In the primary income years, look at the S&P 500, right? That was their asset class of choice, right? So again, millennials, they like growth stocks. They like digital-based companies, as I mentioned. They like tech stocks. So Gen X, this is probably the smallest one. And this one probably applies a lot more to America. You see the number of hedge funds there were, but then, again, during the primary income years, Gen X liked hedge funds. So a lot of them put their money into hedge funds. What do millennials love? Right? So millennials, a lot of millennials are into, obviously, Bitcoin and crypto, right? And so, but obviously, the millennials are just coming into that primary income, right? So if you go back and you look at gold, right, as you're just coming into your primary income years, right, it's probably about there, right? So obviously, I'm not saying I don't know if it's going to go up there, but what we're saying is, for the millennials, millennials like primary as they come into the primary income years, right? There's still a way to go. We feel that crypto, blockchain, tech, that's what millennials are into. So if you look at the global scene, right, around the world, because crypto is global, crypto is, it doesn't sleep. So most of the global millennials, they're actually concentrated. A lot of them are actually in Asia, right? You look at China, you look at India. These are the big ones, and obviously a lot of them are in around here, like the huge number of them here. Millennials in Japan, Australia. Big concentration in Asia, right? There's a big concentration in Asia. This one, I got this today. So here's maybe this gives you a clearer picture. Now this is the population of Malaysia, right? In terms of how old they are. So obviously, as I mentioned, if you're between 20 and 40, you're a millennial. So between 20 and 40, you're a millennial. And this is the primary income group, as I say, is between 35 to 60, right? So as you can see, the millennials have just entered, right? They've just entered the their primary, they're coming into their primary income. So obviously there's still a way. Yes. Yeah. So obviously there's still a way to go, right? And so which asset class do you think the millennial prefer, and where do you think that generation will go? So that's why this is educational purposes only, and but in my opinion, I believe that the millennials are naturally attracted to crypto and to the blockchain, over other asset classes. Why? One, because they are quite tech savvy, right? They grew up with the internet, especially the younger millennials. Unlike the Gen X's and before, right? In fact, some baby boomers, probably struggle with new tech, but not all. Some do. But millennials are quite adept to using tech. So obviously right now, to use crypto is still a little bit rough, right? It's a bit rough around the edges, but as they perfect the user experience, right, and make it easier to onboard, and as the millennials coming into their primary income income age, if the data points to that, and that does happen, then we're gonna see potentially that same effect that's happened to gold, right, in that asset class, the same effect that's happened to stocks in that asset class, and tech stocks, right? This one was, Gen X's were a really small group, so it probably doesn't count. Then crypto, right? You may see it could be a generational thing. So what I'm saying is, if you're even thinking, and I'm not telling you to, if you're even thinking of getting into crypto, you got to think long term, right? You got to think in terms of a generation, right? It's like you hear a lot of stories. Oh yeah, hey, your grandfather's so smart. Now he bought land in the heart of KL, right? And now you're a multi-billionaire. Well, obviously it took time, right? It was a generational thing. So this is what the data points to, right? And the research points to. And as you can see, right? See how big that area is, like that area of millennials. So I think they make up probably 1/3 of the generation. Now this is just Malaysia, obviously. If you look at a global scale, they probably make up about 1/3 of the population. And that brings me to the end.
I think I think, Andrew, that millennial, or this Malaysian population pyramid that you have outlined here, actually there is also a correlation to stocks as well, because if you think about, if your stock is somewhat at the end of the chain, is a B2C or a B2B2C, you're gonna look at growth in this way, because basically the millennials now are getting older, so by right they should be earning more, and they have more disposable income, which means that either it's crypto or banking or stocks or anything else. Even as a business, if your business does not speak to a millennial, and you're only serving a baby boomer or greatest generation kind of size, your numbers may be somewhat quite limited, right? So maybe just to give you guys an idea as well, so you may want to look back at the stocks or businesses that you invest in. Do they still speak to the millennials, right? Not without naming names, but you're gonna notice some stocks that really don't speak to millennials at all, and you can see their decline is hitting really, really fast, right? Things like print publication, or what do we call it? Satellite TV, not on demand, right? Satellite TV, right? Maybe just to add to this as well, and what is interesting is that China has something like 4.5 times more millennials than they do in the US, right? So like no, I think eventually at some point in our lifetime, millennial will become a prime minister or president, right? So things might set to change, or things are definitely going to change, or not going to stay status quo.
Yeah, I agree. It's always about that generational mindset, right? I mean, you can imagine, like in the 80s, what was introduced, like what sort of technology was introduced? The PC, right? The PC was introduced. So for the first time in the 80s, so those who grew up in the 80s, right? When you were in your 20s, right? When you grew up in the 80s, for the first time in your time in your life, you introduced to new tech like the PC and whatnot, and that will shape how you. I mean, your 20s, you're obviously not going to be in the positions of you know of being well, in positions to make decisions and policy decisions yet, but eventually that generation grew up and they got into positions for policy making, and that has what has shaped us. So eventually, as Alvin says, a millennial will be at the seat of being the governor of Bank Negara, of the Fed, right, of all the central banks around the world, of different regulators around the world. A millennial will be in that seat, or millennials will be in those seats, and because of what they've gone through as a generation, they will set those policies that they are familiar with, right? That have shaped the way that they see and view the world, right? So that's yeah.
Actually, we have a couple of questions online. Maybe we can start with. So on YouTube, actually, there is a actually in the beginning there was a question where you talk about China issuing their own digital currency. Is there a difference between China's digital currency and crypto? Right. And I think there's another question here from Mike Oxmore. I think you just typed in YouTube. Maybe you can clarify a little bit on that.
Yeah, sure. So okay, so I guess the question is, are e-wallets, Touch and Go, Grab, Boost, etc., are they considered crypto? If not, what's the difference? No, definitely not crypto, because I don't believe, or they are probably they are a form of digital currency, right? But I don't think they are considered cryptocurrencies. Even Alvin mentioned about China's CBDC, the central bank digital currency. They're considered a digital currency. And what's a digital currency? Similar to the physical currency that is issued by the central bank of that country, right, of that jurisdiction. It is still centrally issued. So a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, for example, is not government issued, right? But it is a software program, right? It is it's an algorithm and it's a software program. And the way it works, it uses cryptography to ensure that it cannot be copied, and also as part of its security. So I wouldn't consider those digital wallets as cryptocurrencies. Alvin, I think your mic.
Before we move on, Benny, you want to make any quick announcements for tomorrow before we continue with the questions?
Yeah, we'll make a short announcement first, and before we continue. So keep on the questions coming. If you guys have any questions, just type in the questions so that Andrew or Alvin or even myself will be able to answer it. We'll answer it for you guys. All right. So, let me see whether I got this up. Okay, guys. If you have not attended our equities tracker online campus, where we actually teach you how to invest and trade using value investing principles and also price chart analysis, this is a very good opportunity for you guys to actually join this program for free. All right, there's about nearly about 40 over hours of videos in there, including tutorials and also support. This is where you can actually get the foundation on how to use information to be a well-informed investor. All right, so all you need to do is basically to make a donation, right? So we are actually running this charity drive as well, to help you to invest better as a well-informed investor, and at the same time to also help those who are really in financial need currently. right? So all you need to do is to make 100 ringgit donation to any charity, and then please keep the receipt, right? And as long as you make 100 ringgit donation, you can also bring along 3 friends to join our ET Online Campus, right? To join our e-learning platform that we actually created just specially for you guys, especially if your guys are still at home. All right. So you just have to go to charity.equitiestracker.com, right? Just go there and just fill up the forms over there, and please make sure that you have your receipt of 100 ringgit and above ready as well. All right. So far, you guys who have actually attended and joined us in our charity drive, we have collected about 148,000 ringgit. All right. Hopefully that by the time the MCO is over, we are able to reach our target at 250,000. So please help us to also share with your friends if they want to learn about investing using data, right? Because we are all data driven when we make investment decisions, so that you too can become a well-informed investor, and your friends as well, right? So please do share, all right, our Facebook page. Doesn't to come to our Facebook page and like them, or just go to charity.equitiestracker.com. All right. And for those who have not do not know us, or you're still new with us and haven't have an access to our equity tracker platform, this is where the data is being stored. This is where you do your analysis and research, right? Please WhatsApp us at 603-8408-2070, right? So that you can get a 2 weeks access. Just click hi on the WhatsApp. Yes, this number is actually a WhatsAppable number. You can actually WhatsApp this number, right? WhatsApp this number, just say hi, and then you just follow the instructions, to get your access to our equity tracker platform. All right. Now, Alvin, you also have another announcement that is basically for tomorrow's presentation. Tomorrow we have actually a special edition.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we were discussing for Copy Time topics, apart from just helping investors like you, which is either on crypto or either through technical analysis or either through value investing like what we do, we've actually been getting some questions, and one of the things is that we were thinking, what can we actually do to help anyone, right? And we actually we want a segment. We're starting a segment, of course, depending on demand for viewers. For those of you who actually do run a business, we want to see if there's any way that we can invite speakers that may help you. Why are we trying to do this? Because ultimately, for unemployment rate to go down, the businesses need to continue to operate, right? And if businesses do not operate, people will lose their jobs. So this is our way of trying to give back, where we will invite legal, HR, if anyone sort of needs help regarding, all businesses today are very, very much shaken, except for very small amount or small sector in economy. So we're trying to allocate a day a week for all business owners. And tomorrow, actually, we're going to start off. We actually have the CEO of a company called Search Guru, where I know a lot of companies now are struggling, and he's agreed to come on board to share a little bit about digital marketing and how it can also help your business, right? So inadvertently, we're also helping investors, all right, indirectly lah. So tomorrow at 8:00 we will be back, for this segment.
All right. So for those who do not know Search Guru is one of the actually biggest program marketing firm in Southeast Asia. So he has agreed to spend his time with us tomorrow. So hopefully that if you have friends who are in the business sector, who has probably have not engaged, especially in digital marketing, please share it to them, and hopefully that they can benefit from this. All right, please share this to your friends, and you should be able to get the information on our Facebook page. All right. So let's go on to the questions.
Yeah. So
sorry. There are a few questions asking, because since the millennials are just starting to now make money, and they're going to of course, probably if you compare with gold and bitcoins, they probably prefer bitcoins lah, right? So I think there's some of them asking now what platform to actually use in Malaysia to invest in cryptos or bitcoins.
Okay. So if you're just tuning in for the first time today, quite a few episodes back, we actually invited one of the 3 regulated digital asset exchanges in Malaysia, where you can actually go on and buy Bitcoin with your ringgit onto the show. So the CEO that came on was 𝐶. He's from Tokenize Malaysia. So Tokenize with a Z, tokenizemalaysia.com. You go on there, you sign up for an account, and then you can start trading, right? Obviously, and then there's the other 2, which is Synergy and Luno, right? So you can just Google for that, jump on. It's fully regulated, therefore, so they're regulated by SC, the Securities Commission in Malaysia, and so they're all legit, right? So jump on there, and that's how you would do it if you're in Malaysia. Yep.
All right. So regulated means at least you know that your money will be safe, lah. Right? They have set up like trust accounts and all that. You know, even if the company goes bust, your money will still be safe. As compared to, because there are many other brokers that you can still open, right? Especially those overseas one as well. So I think the safest one was in Malaysia, the one that's regulated here, lah.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're Malaysian and you're in Malaysia, that's probably your safest bet. Obviously, there are a lot more seasoned crypto traders because obviously crypto is a global thing, and so you will see, and I'm sure a lot of Malaysians out there are also doing it on other non-regulated exchanges, which means if it gets hacked and the money's stolen, that's it, it's gone, right? It's up to the exchange whether or not they want to keep their reputation and give you back your money and all that. But obviously, when you regulate it in Malaysia, then there are rules in place where the money is not kept with them, right? It's kept with the custodian, for example. So if you're in Malaysia and that's you'd like to dip your toes in it, try one of them. So tokenizemalaysia.com, right? That's one of them. So
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, there's one question from Bradley. This is quite deep, I think. Do you see a consolidation of the various coins existing, or how things will look like once the technology becomes more user-friendly and adoption rises?
Consolidation. I'm not so sure about a consolidation, because if you talk about different coins on different blockchains, they're essentially different technology, right? However, if you've heard of the word forking, right, you can actually make a copy of a blockchain. So, for example, in 2017, right, the group within Bitcoin didn't agree, right, and so they forked, created a new one called Bitcoin Cash, right. Then last year, again, within the group that forked off, the ones that didn't agree, they call it Bitcoin SV, right? So I think what you will see, rather than a consolidation, is more of an expansion, right? Because crypto is very early. It's only 11 years old, right? And so as time goes by, I think you will see more coins coming onto the market, right? Obviously, it is different from stocks, right? You can't think of it as stocks, because obviously companies can merge, right? The bigger ones can buy into the smaller ones and all that. So, but with crypto, I think you're more than likely to see an expansion rather than a contraction in terms of number of coins. How would things look like once the tech becomes more user-friendly? I think once it becomes more user-friendly, okay, so for those of you who are millennials, I assume you were not around, or you had not discovered the internet during the early days. So I'm a Gen X, right? So I was around, and I jumped onto the internet in Malaysia when it was in 1994, right? And at that time, it was a very technical thing, right? You had to navigate a lot of things, and it wasn't so user-friendly. It wasn't so easy, right? Right now, you're constantly connected. We actually had to connect onto the internet, right? Your computer's always disconnected. You had to connect to the internet, and then you had to do things through a text interface, right? So you had to do a lot of typing. Whereas nowadays, right, you want to send a message, your devices are constantly connected. You do a swipe, you type and you do a send, and that's it. It's done. You don't even need to know anything that's too technical. You don't have to type stuff in the command line. So I think as the user experience becomes easier and things become more user friendly and adoption comes on, right? I will see. I hope to see, and I think what will happen is, right, as the infrastructure gets put in place, just like infrastructure that they put in place before we saw this huge surge, right? For example, pre-4G, Instagram didn't get that crazy boom, right? YouTube, you could not stream YouTube on the go on your mobile device, right? You were not able to upload high resolution photos or send high resolution photos, and some cloud apps, right, couldn't be run. So everything had to be run on your laptop, right? So as infrastructure within the crypto sphere gets put in place, I think you're going to see that surge, right? That sudden jump, that exponential rise in adoption. So we're still in very early days. We're in the early days.
All right. Do you have any questions on YouTube, Alvin?
Yeah, actually, there is a question here from Hanata. She's asking if are there such thing as fundamentals in crypto, or is it more like trading, like what Benny does? Yeah.
That's a good question. I think the fundamentals that you would look for in crypto are quite different from what you would look at in stocks, for example, right? In crypto, you talk about the network effect. So obviously, the more people that jump onto a network, the higher the value becomes, right? It's X is to the power of, something to the power of X. So for example, mobile telephone networks, right? When you had, if you have two people on a network, then it's very useful to two people, right? But then you add one more, then it becomes three people. Then you can have these calls. The more people that come onto the network, right? That means the more mobile phone users. So think of crypto users as mobile phone users. The more crypto users that come onto the network, the more value it gains. Right. So, for example, why is Facebook worth so much? Why is Google worth so much? Because they have that network effect, the people that are within that network in that ecosystem. So Facebook has 2.4 to 2.5 billion users. There's only 7+ billion users on Earth. So Facebook essentially has captured 40% of the world's population. So the world's population, 40% of the world's population have a Facebook account, right? So that's why Facebook is worth so much. So same with crypto, right? Because it natively lives on the internet, right? The more people adopt and come onto a platform, so then the value of that crypto goes up. That's one. Two is obviously, again, it has to do with usability, right? Like why would someone adopt it? Why would someone want to use it? Well, obviously it needs to have utility. It needs to be useful to someone. So yeah, that's one. Then the other one is obviously so if you look at each blockchain and each crypto as a network, as a community, then you need to look at the developers of that blockchain, right? How much work is being done on that blockchain? Now, a lot of decentralized crypto, for example, like Bitcoin, is actually dependent on the community. In fact, 80 to 90% of the servers that, every time you surf the web, you go somewhere, you hit a website, 80 to 90% of the servers actually run on this free open source software called Linux. Linux is an operating system that was, again, given for free and written by the community and maintained by the community. What do I mean by maintain? That means they make code changes, right? They update it and then it's shared with everybody. So it's called open source software. So Bitcoin is an open source software. It is the community that maintains it. So you see how much work is being done on each project. That's another angle to look at it. And then look, there are other angles to look at it, obviously, but these are a few of it. Yep.
Okay, I think we only have time for one more or two more questions. I think I'm gonna, if you don't have any question, Alvin, I'm gonna bring up one question. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, it's from our friend Steven Chia. Okay, since we are talking about the adoption and the rise of digital currencies, which internet will be the main connection, right? So, do you think that the wealth gap will be even wider to those countries or population with limited access, or or limited tech or internet connectivity?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because obviously, it has to be on the internet. I think as long as you have a mobile phone these days, I mean, it's quite difficult to buy a mobile phone that is not a smartphone, right? So most mobile phones are smartphone these days, and most of them are connected to the internet. I think instead of limiting, I think it'll be an even greater equalizer, right? Because if you look at a lot of countries that are in financial stress right now, and I refer to Venezuela, Argentina, even Iran, right? If you look at what's happening to those countries, Iran's an interesting one, and it's quite recent. If you look at what's happening in Iran, is that they are replacing their currency, right? Because of hyperinflation, they're saying, for every X number of this old currency that we have, you get this new currency. And so, do you know what happened to the price of Bitcoin in Iran? It more than tripled, right? So the price of Bitcoin more than tripled because what was happening is can you imagine you've worked 20, 30 years of your life, right? And you've diligently put money away, right? You put it into the banking system, you put it into the bank, right? You save your money, you buy a house, you're paying off your mortgage, you're saving your money. And because of hyperinflation, right, it destroys the value that you've saved in the last 20 years. And they're going to replace that with a new currency because the old one wasn't working. That's stressful times, right? So what a lot of Iranians did was they were taking all their money and trying to get out of that currency, right, out of that system, and went and bought Bitcoin. And because of that huge surge in demand, the price of Bitcoin went up 3 times. Then you look at Venezuela, right? Venezuela, again, the sanctions and whatnot, and they were cut off. So people, in order to survive, what they were doing was they were actually smuggling, these Bitcoin miners into Venezuela. They were actually mining Bitcoin, right? And whatever Bitcoin they had, they used the Bitcoin to purchase food, right? Some of them even a story that I read, they mined the Bitcoin. They used the Bitcoin to go online to purchase food to a neighboring country at the border, and they would go across the border to smuggle that back into Venezuela, right? So I think if anything, it'll rather than create that gap, I think hopefully it brings that gap closer. But obviously, it's education, because right now it's very difficult to use, right? So if you don't know how to use it, and you don't know what to Google for, right, then it becomes difficult. But I think if times get difficult enough, that will be sufficient motivation for people to figure it out, like what's happened in Iran. Yeah.
And China is educating their children now. It's going to be education, so they are probably going to be the front runner. All right, guys, I think we have run out of time. We're going to have our Mandarin session in about 2 minutes, right? And actually, there's a question by Daniel, which Alvin has answered, right? Whether any of 3 of us have actually bought Bitcoin. So Andrew, of course, is the first one who actually bought and invested, and then convinced his brother Alvin, but I was not convinced yet. Andrew has been asking me, try look at crypto, look at Bitcoin, but you know what? I don't know whether today's, Andrew, when you gave this guy Paul Tudor Jones, right? whether it's intentional or not, because this guy is one of a very famous trader, even in the technical analysis society, right? Because this guy's been trading since the 1980s, and he's one of the biggest so-called speculator or trader, because he actually lost in the cotton market, by 60 to 70% of his portfolio actually being wiped out on the cotton market in 1979. But what made him famous was the 1987 Black Monday, right? He was known for that, lah. So the reason why I mentioned this is because he's one of my idol as well, and he was also one of the guys who's being featured in the book Market Wizards. I think I've repeated quite a number of times, right? So maybe this is a sign for me to look at it as well, lah.
So are you convinced now that your idol Paul is in it?
He put 2%, lah. Maybe I put 1% first and see how. All right, guys. Thank you very much, Andrew, Alvin, for joining us today in this session today. And please, again, remember we have our special session on digital marketing tomorrow, especially for businesses. So please invite your business friends, so to make sure that they are able to actually unleash the full power of digital marketing. All right.
Hey, Benny. Sorry. Yeah. Next week's crypto night will not be at night.
Oh yes.
Oh, yeah. Next week, crypto night is going to be at 1 p.m. All right. Hopefully you're able to join us, because our guest is actually from the other side of the world, right? Is New York or LA?
So our guest, we were very lucky to get our guest. He's based out in San Francisco, and so they're 15 hours behind us. So I said, can you jump on at 8 p.m.? They said, yeah, but that's like 5 a.m. So I got to get up at 4 to jump on at 5. So it'll be a bit difficult, lah. So he says, can you do it, between this time? So we said, okay, lah, we'll do it at 1 p.m. So next week, if you'd like to join us, please tune in at 1 p.m. instead of 8 p.m. Right? Yeah. And if you miss it, then it's still recorded. It'll be on our YouTube and on our Facebook channel. Yeah. So next week is a very special guest, and it is a tech startup in the crypto space that. Those of you who don't know Tim Draper is a very famous VC in America. He bought into Facebook 8 years before they got listed, right? So imagine how many multiples he made. He also bought up all the Bitcoin that was auctioned off when they shut down the Silk Road, right? He bought it all up, and obviously he made a bundle. So Tim Draper is actually financing this startup called tune in next week to find out who they are, right? But it's a special guest. Yeah,
it's gonna be big. So I don't think you guys should miss out. But I know it's 1 p.m., so it might be a bit hard. But it is a very exciting space.
Yeah, you just tap out your lunch in the office if you're in office and just get ready, lah. Right? On your mobile phone, you're able to watch us already. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Again, tomorrow is about digital marketing. So hopefully you're able to join us and share this with your friends. Till then, see you again tomorrow and have a good evening.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Guys, thanks. Bye.
Oops.